In today's episode, we're going to talk about the psychology of winning. I'll see you inside. So, before we actually get into winning, I want to first take a brief moment to talk to you about testosterone. This hormone is actually going to be extremely important to today's talk. So, as I mentioned, testosterone is a hormone, and it plays a vital role in the development of male sexual characteristics predominantly. With that being said, it's also vital for the production of red blood cells, the growth of bone and muscle, and even the metabolism of fat. However, one thing that it does that isn't really talked about much is it has a profound psychological effect that we could use to our advantage to actually feel more satisfied and build momentum to achieve more. And now I do think it is very important to note that both men and women have testosterone. Women simply have less testosterone in their body, but the way testosterone fluctuates is still important. And all the things that we will talk about today work in both men and women. And when I speak about increasing testosterone in women, it's not going to be an increase that will cause women to develop masculine characteristics. Simply, these tricks are going to allow both genders to increase confidence and motivation. And with that out of the way, let's talk winning. Several studies have shown that winning will actually increase the level of testosterone afterwards in both men and women. And it's actually thought that this is the body's response to a positive social feedback that is associated with winning. It seems that winning makes us feel more confident and powerful, and we will increase the production of testosterone in response. With that being said, it also appears that the increased production of testosterone will sustain that boost in confidence. So winning will give you an initial boost in confidence, which in turn will increase your testosterone. And as long as that testosterone production stays at that level, your confidence will also stay at that level. Which very well may be why people who have a difficult time producing testosterone may get a win and quickly fall back into a slump, because they were unable to sustain the testosterone production, so their testosterone and motivation declined once the testosterone production declined. And now I have a few examples of this. There is a study published in the journal Evolution and Human Behavior, where researchers measured the testosterone levels of 61 men before and after they played a game of chess against their opponent. Yes, this is a game of chess. And they found that the men who won the game had significant increases in their testosterone levels compared to those who either lost or tied. And now this may be pretty intuitive, but there's another example that's a little less intuitive, because it doesn't actually appear to be someone's physical capabilities, rather their perception of their physical capabilities. And now in this study we have to look to mice, but there have been other studies before in humans that seem to show the same outcomes. So there have been elegant studies done in mice where two mice are put at either end of a tube. The mice will try and knock one another out of the tube, and the mouse that quote unquote wins is the one that remains inside of the tube. Interestingly, after a mouse has won, it is much more likely to win the next time and the time after that, and continue this winning streak. Simply, after a mouse has won once, it will be more likely to win again. But what's fascinating is what the researchers decided to do next. So the first study is done without the hand of a researcher. However, they do additional studies in which researchers actually push one of the mice from behind, and it will knock the other mouse out. Basically, this push from behind allows this mouse to win, despite not actually doing the work required to win. And even if the mouse is not actually stronger than its next opponent, it will be more likely to win because it won the previous time with the help of the researcher. It seems to have this psychological willpower to win despite not actually being stronger than its opponent. So what this kind of points at is that testosterone not only aids in increasing muscle mass and anabolism in the long run, but it appears that it allows an individual to also tap into more of their strength in the short term. And I think this is another way that testosterone helps so much in building muscle. Simply, an individual with higher testosterone will be able to put more mechanical load on their muscles by lifting more, because they are physically able to produce more force and lift more weight. And it kind of turns into a loop, because every time you lift more weight, it feels like a win. And when you win, you increase your testosterone even more. And it certainly has been shown in the literature that large lifts, specifically, they've looked at the barbell back squat, has been demonstrated to cause a large increase in testosterone acutely. which means after they complete the set or complete the squat workout, their testosterone levels are higher than they were previously. But I think it's kind of important to remember that it's as long as you perceive that the workout or the set of squats is successful. And now this doesn't mean that you can't fail a rep, but as long as you perceive the set in its entirety to be successful, that seems to be what matters. And honestly, I think this is where the phrase winners keep winning seems to come from. It is much more or less about one's physical capabilities, and it seems to be more important about how we perceive our physical capabilities. And I just want to reiterate the idea that it appears that winning puts us in a psychological state to use more of our potential, which may actually be why we hear these crazy stories of feats of strengths done, like mothers lifting cars off of their children. And while I can't say anything about the actual validity of these stories, it's a demonstration that most people actually have a level of strength inside of them that they simply are not yet in a physiological state to access. However, we can do things that assist us in tapping into more and more of this stored potential. Okay, so what can we take away from these stories about overconfident mice and superhuman mothers? I think one important thing is that we should set ourselves up each and every day to find the wins inside of the day. Ideally, we would actually get our first win right at the beginning of the day so we can carry that into the rest of our daily lives. And this could look like having a small and very easily achievable goal that we do first thing every morning. For me, I actually choose to do my meal prep immediately in the morning. And I make it easy on myself by making sure that before I go to bed, everything's actually set out, so all I have to do is the cooking. And now this habit benefits me both by giving me that first win and letting me feel prepared for the rest of the day. And it also is a very important factor in simply just staying consistent. Other things that I have found to work for people is choosing something like brushing your teeth directly in the morning, or doing a morning workout also seems to work well. Maybe it's having a healthy breakfast, or even knocking out a bit of work or chores first thing in the morning. Simply just find a win that you know you can achieve almost, if not every single day, and get it done directly in the morning. And I would recommend just to make sure it's not too large, because if you do fail, this will actually decrease your levels of testosterone and motivation. And while this may be small and transient, it definitely will occur. So I would not recommend planning a daily workout if you won't always have the time or the energy to get it done, because if you miss one day, this could cause an aversive feeling because you didn't meet the goal that you set out. And for some, this could kind of lead into a spiral of not getting those wins throughout the rest of the day, which could even bleed over into the next day and even the rest of the week or month. And now, the other thing I would suggest is that you surround yourself with people that make you feel like you're winning. Now, let's say you do achieve something that you perceive as being a win, but the people around you suggest that it's not meaningful. This seems to invoke a reciprocal loop of just decreasing your testosterone, which in turn makes you less motivated and less confident, and leaves you in a state of feeling like you are not, for lack of a better term, high ranking. And in terms of rank, it certainly seems to be the case that the highest ranking individual in a population seems to almost invariably have the highest levels of testosterone. And this may simply just come down to how they perceive their role in society. And I think that's important because they perceive themselves as being high ranking. But let's say that they are the highest ranking individual at a company, but they feel inferior to someone else, maybe at a different company. This may actually be a case where they may not have the highest levels of testosterone and confidence because their perception of their role is not high ranking. Which kind of leads me into the last point that I want to talk about, which is you may not actually be the leader at your work or in an industry, but you can find other places in society which you are a leader. So we can simply leverage these things to increase our testosterone, boost our confidence, and give us the momentum that we're looking for, which could eventually bleed into business and increasing our rank in our business by getting promotions and other things like that. So This could simply be something like maybe you're the head of your household or the head of a local church. What you can do is really lean into these activities and acknowledge your role as a leader in some facet of your daily life. Because once again, it appears that it's not really about if you are technically the alpha male or female in society. What seems to matter is if you perceive yourself as being a leader to others and having an important leadership role. Because every success of the people below you is a win. And the final thing I'm going to touch on is just trying to be conscious of all the wins that are occurring every single day. Sometimes we don't notice these wins and we get into a spiral of not feeling like we're making progress at all. But there are so many small wins inside of the day that if we do acknowledge, it may increase our ability to get more wins later on. And hopefully this podcast just puts in the back of your mind to look for these little wins throughout the day. And like I said, these don't have to be massive wins. These can be the 1% wins, like you stuck to your plan for the day, you stuck to your diet for the day, you did a workout, you got a piece of work done. The goal would just be to take a brief moment to acknowledge the win, which will then cause this cascade of increasing testosterone, which helps with winning, and winning helps with testosterone. And obviously today I'm talking about testosterone, but there are so many other neurochemicals that actually play a role in this. One very important one would be dopamine, and the other seems to be serotonin. But for sake of the length of this podcast, I'm likely going to leave this one here. So I think the biggest takeaway is our perception of ourselves is so much more powerful than we may actually think. And simply setting ourselves up and deliberately looking for things that we perceive as wins in life builds tremendous momentum that allows us to tap into more and more of the potential that we actually have. And being able to tap into more of our current potential makes us more successful and more productive, which will allow us to get more wins in the future. And then we can start this cycle of winning, gaining confidence, winning again, and then gaining even more confidence. So maybe we can look at the phrase that winners keep on winning in a different light of not being negative, but being something applicable to our daily lives, of trying to find wins which will promote more winning. And I'm sure you are tired of the word winning, so I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back to listen to the next episode. But before you go, you can follow me on Instagram at Calvin_Schiller. And links to everything will be in the description of this podcast. Thank you for listening.